Welcome to Braindrop by VCom Solutions. Each episode, we talk to IT leaders and experts, explore recent projects, and learn from their triumphs and challenges. We hope today's episode provides you with a unique window into the world of IT, where creativity meets problem solving and technology drives businesses forward. I'm your host, Jethro Castillo. Now let's drop into today's conversation. Today on Braindrop by VCom Solutions, I am joined by Boyan Vukechevich, the Senior Director of IT at the Shaw Group, an industry leader in pipe and module design and fabrication services. Boyan has over 25 years of experience in the IT industry, and his innovative leadership has allowed his teams to create technology-driven solutions that solve crucial business needs. Boyan, thanks for being on the podcast. It's an honor to have you here today.
Oh, thanks for having me. Thanks for the invite. I appreciate it.
So let's jump into the questions. I'd love to know more about you. How did you get started in IT?
I was born and raised in a country that was named Yugoslavia. And in that school system, even in the high school, we did have the professional orientation. So my high school diploma is basically for programming. I learned the program in first year in high school. And I got to like it. It was interesting. It was a lot of challenges. And I think that I really enjoyed is it was always opportunity to improve every time. And there is that saying, if you check what you did, let's say your code that you did some time ago, and you don't say, what was I doing then you need to ask yourself, what was I doing since then? We have to change, we have to improve because this profession does not have any patience.
Not at all. You probably already mentioned it, but maybe you can expand on it. What is your favorite part about working in IT? For me, it's similar. It's this idea that we always are learning and always have to improve and always have to look back and reflect.
That's exactly correct. It's an open opportunity for continuous improvement. And that's what I like. It's always a challenge. And even if it's not a challenge, even if you know how to do it, quite often you find a way to do it better.
I love that. And I try to actually adopt that in all aspects of my life too. Am I better today than I was yesterday? And every little thing, even if it's just a little way, even if it's something I'm really used to, I'm going to challenge myself to try to be better today than I was yesterday. And I think it's a really great way to kind of live your life.
That's exactly correct. That's what actually makes this interesting.
Like we said, the IT world is rapidly changing and evolving. With all the information out there, where do you go to learn, grow, and keep up to date?
Thankfully, we have a lot of opportunities. One of the things as an IT leader, when I'm actually choosing new technology to apply, or making a decision, am I going to replace some technology? One very important factor for me is, does manufacturer, vendor, provides free or at least accessible training? I would always rather go with a vendor that has free learning capabilities, free academies, some ways than somebody that's charging hundreds and hundreds of dollars for every day of their training. Because as an IT person tomorrow, when I need to find somebody to actually implement that, maintain that, troubleshoot that technology, obviously the choice is much higher for the vendors that do provide free training than for somebody that has a very proprietary and very expensive training. It just minimize the available pool of the people to actually help you with it. Software does not have to be free, but learning how to use, maintain, and implement that software is very important. That's free. Now, what also I like is when the vendor supports community, so-called communities, that basically information is shared and crowdsourced, especially during the problems and failures. Is much faster to find an answer in a community than basically even find the training how to resolve it.
Yeah, I completely agree. That is actually how I've done it too. I went on Google, I use Reddit sometimes, or Twitter, or Discord, anywhere where there's live people sharing their mistakes and what they've learned. And some of them are exactly what you're experiencing. And so then you just get to follow them.
And some vendors, let's not use the name in this one, but let's say some vendors had amazing setup. In the community, they were basically great, proper answers correct, useful answers, and the people that had a heavy number of answers, that was a way to get some titles that would, on another standpoint, allow those people, if they are consultants, to be much more known and basically to charge much more for their services. So it works for both sides. It was a very efficient way to actually improve crowdsourcing help. I would always go with that vendor rather than some other when I have to choose, if the quality of the product is comparable.
Right.
Just because of that.
So with all that being said, what are your thoughts on the current state of IT? What are the challenges? What are the game changers, especially in your industry?
Challenges are common, which is budgets and people. I think we have all software that we need to have. We have all hardware that we need to have. I mean, the famous saying, okay, I'm in Houston, so sometimes I go down to NASA and see the computer system they use to launch Apollo and bring it back, and you see an amazing amount of hardware, and you just realize that your phone in your pocket is many times more powerful than those dozens of tons, basically, of hardware they use those days. So the problem is well-trained people, especially after the COVID, for the company like mine that insists on work from office, that actually is extreme challenge these days. Even we see recently some of the leaders of the industry, I'm talking Amazon and Meta, basically requiring their people to get back to offices on a mostly, I guess, 3+2 schedule. Also here in Houston, we noticed the most of the oil and gas did that. So it's coming back together, but still not too much. And the most experienced people still insisting on working from home. That's one of the problems. The second problem is extremely fluid and critical cybersecurity thing. Yeah. Finding the well-trained people that one can afford is pretty challenging. Dealing with the cyber securitors, setting up, and then also on another side, explaining to users, we are not doing that for our fun, just to torture them.
Yeah.
We basically try to save our business from a catastrophic consequences that happen to some company that we all read about. It takes time. I always compare it with a lock on a door. I mean, yes, it is a nuisance when you, in a hurry, you leave your house, you have to stop, turn back, lock your actual entrance door, and then proceed. But we all do it, and we all know very well why. So somehow we need to even better promote that message.
You're right. It's so simple when you talk about it physically, right? You lock your door so you make sure nobody breaks in and nobody questions that. They're like, yeah, of course, I have to protect my house. But now when it's online and you're like, oh, we have to make sure that there's multi-factor authentication. We want to make sure that we know that it's you before you come in. It becomes a little, oh man, that makes it a lot harder to use the software or your technology. But we don't question it when it comes to physical property. So it's a weird, different sort of gap, if you will.
That's what I'm sometimes trying to use, that analogy, when I try to explain the actual need for that.
Yeah.
Now, on the other side, the good side, as you mentioned, the hardware cost basically is much, much lower than it ever was per computational unit. So we have more and more very advanced systems. You can call them AI. One of the things that low code, no code, RPA, that basically allow us much faster development of the new solution, new improvements, new processes. And what's also really important, some of those can be quickly trained to our business analysts or even super users, so that it alleviates the problem that I already talked about. So that is a really good momentum that's actually happening right now, and I think that's something that we need to embrace it and use it as much as possible. Now, obviously, there are some resistance inside the IT systems, existing employees, because they might feel a bit threatened for their workplaces and everything. But I think that, again, at this moment, we have a much more need than we have available IT professionals, so we just need to be able to articulate and socialize that message.
Right. With, technology, both good and bad, right? And we just have to adapt and change along with it.
Yeah, same as everything else, right? That's what I think is main goal of IT. And I'm talking since the beginning, the digital transformation of our business.
You mentioned your company's a manufacturing company. Let's talk a little bit about your IT team and environment. How long have you been there? How many team members do you have? And how many employees rely on your IT team?
Well, I'm there just a bit over a year. And the company was actually bought out of the huge multinational corporation during the bankruptcy. We are almost a startup that inherited very complex software solutions, which make things even more interesting. So we are heavily relying on managed service providers. And I think that's a good way to do. You find the managed service providers that for the segments that are their niches, and basically contract them to do a lot of processing, because we are still too small to have enough people. And another problem is, again, people don't want to work that much at office. But even otherwise, I guess the Security Operations Center, SOC, is a best option, best example, the word I was looking for that. Because in the moment of the possible incident, you need a lot of people on board, and you cannot afford to pay all of those people a whole year. That would be ludicrous. So it's much better to have somebody ready to basically jump in those situations. Same as the other things. Software issues happen, software patches sometimes break stuff. And in those moments, you need much more people there, much more than it would be cost effective to have on your staff. So my focus is managed service providers for the most of the complex support issues. I think it's just a better option.
Sure.
And then you have managed turnover, personal emergencies, and all of that stuff. Of course, my main thing is then to establish actually very good personal relations with managed service providers, right? Because quite often you get in situations that you need.
I love the idea of, it's much more affordable and cost effective, but you still need to have those really good relationships with these managed service providers because you need to kind of implement them in for very intense projects.
Now I'm talking about company that's almost a startup that inherits very complex software solutions from a multi-billion-dollar company. Obviously, some multi-billion-dollar companies, the CIO has probably different approach because their sheer size, they can afford enough people to do the full support for some of their solution because they can always shift them to the different component and segments of their business. But in our case, that's just not the case.
Right.
And I don't think it would be cost effective.
Let's talk a little bit about a recent IT project that your team completed. What was the reason for taking on this project and what were the goals?
Choose something that sounds very simple. That project started before I came on board, and it was just an integration SaaS-based payroll provider, which seems very simple, straightforward, something that we do for a long time. And actually, it's not. Because if there is no IT team and the contract is originally made that has experience with that makes sure that proper understanding of the term is shared between the all parties. What happens is each party understands the specific terms like interface, the way they would prefer it. So the business was considering word interface in the contract that the vendor is going to basically make an interface that will communicate data from the vendor system to our system and back. Well, vendor consideration was that they're going to give an ability to create a custom reports and custom ingestion of the flat files and basically exchange them by SFTP and nothing more. Since I did a few times realize that and realize considering everything that precise specs that you need for the actual interface, or even if you go to the term interoperability, are going to be very hard, even impossible to obtain before the go live. From this standpoint, we're talking payroll, which is extremely critical for each and every company, and so is highly personal, right? Decided to use the most adaptable approach, which in my opinion is an RPA approach. Basically use the RPA to ingest the data into my ERP that come from a vendor. So now RPA, or robotic processing automation, which was a big new term about, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, become very important. I quite often compare it with the pontoon bridge. I mean, obviously, there is advantage to have a nice bridge, but sometimes you don't have enough time to build a real bridge. Sometimes you're not going to need the bridge for too long time. Sometimes you might know actually precise place you need that bridge. It may be half mile upriver or down the river. In those situations, pontoon bridge is the best. That's why Army uses it, because they don't have time to build a bridge. So RPA, when the specs are fluid, speed of implementation is of utmost importance, was something that I thought was going to be the best option. What also help is the ERP that we use does have inside integrated proprietary RPA as a part of the standard license, and we did it. It worked great. Now, users were, I'm sure the word impressed be too harsh, but really happy when they saw that they can process 700 employees' records, basically with the speed of like 2 or 3 seconds per record, or sometimes faster. And also during that time, if you need a change, it takes 15-20 minutes to do the change. And in a standard interoperability, that's basically much more complicated process with the full testing, vetting, governance, and all of that. I would call it a big win with not much effort, very low cost in this case. And when I say very low cost, I'm talking less than $5,000. Right? So for those type of projects, that's my first thought always, an RPA.
When you implemented this, did it go completely smoothly, or were there what went well and maybe what didn't go quite as well?
It was the changes of the specs after go live, between the go live and the first payroll. They were not overly dramatic, but there was some change of specs, and obviously that made all business users very concerned. But from IT standpoint, it was usually taking us, once the business user present to us changes they need, it was usually less than 30 minutes before we had it ready for the testing. I would call that smooth, actually, considering the situation.
Sure.
I mean, we are not talking about implementing interoperability with, I'm sure, some old e-commerce system when you get all specs very nicely defined and you have time to prepare for that. In that case, obviously, I will use some different system. But for this one, it was a smooth was because, whatever they threw at us is going to be taken care in less than an hour.
Gotcha.
So that's my suggestion for everybody in those situations. Fluid specs, very quick deployment, moving targets, go with a low-code, no-code solution, but RPA. Now, some people already calling it AI. I think that's a bit of an overkill for the standard RPA. Now, let's not misunderstand that some RPA have a very advanced heuristics modules, or AI, if you prefer the name. That's what I'm working right now, even capable of reading handwriting and processing that in real time. But again, for me, it's an RPA solution. It basically simulates employee in the memory of the machine, data entry clerk, just simulates it you can scale it up, which was also important for the payroll processing because that's very campaign-based work. Obviously, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is not as much as Thursday or Friday, so it's extremely easy. Scale up, scale down, with almost no cost, no commitment. The holidays do not matter. Machine doesn't realize it on 4th of July
Right.
or Thanksgiving, right?
So then what's next for you and the team? What are the big goals and the other projects looking forward after this?
I am going to actually continue use of the different technologies, low-code, no-code technologies, including RPA. The thing is that's on the horizon that I would really like, and I hope somewhere next year I am going to have enough resources and bandwidth to step into, is going to be, on one side, deploying a very complex financial consolidation reporting module that does use component of the AI provided one of the major cloud hosts on one side. On the other side, basically the focus is going to be on processing data that we have to gain advantage of those informations. The next thing that I'm looking forward to is one fairly new concept, I would say. People call it process mining. Some people don't like that name. The idea is find a holistic processing of the data, even the data that were before considered as basically worthless, like logs with the timestamps on them, and then try to use whatever heuristic clustering, AI, or whatever other name you prefer for that. For me, that's very similar, basically. Mostly depends how much machine power one have available.
Sure.
To gather hidden gems, that's hence the name process mining, right? Basically mining for the hidden gems inside that will show you the process inefficiencies that actually we miss. Because there are quite a lot of situations that the humans just don't see, and the machines are good at that, really good at that. One of the best examples I've heard for that, and I'm talking probably close to 10 years ago, somebody was doing some tax information processing and found a very interesting fact inside. Found that the small moms and pops pizza shops actually use much more pizza boxes than big chains.
Interesting.
Yes, what it means that cash payments were not reported, but they would forget to take the cost of the pizza box that they bought from the reporting. And that's the thing that human usually is not going to notice. Machine is very good at noticing stuff. It cannot explain it, obviously, but it's going to present you as anomaly. So the process mining will become more and more efficient in basically showing us the process anomalies, loops, delays, and give us a chance to actually streamline and improve our processes for our business.
Why do you think some people don't like that phrase? You mentioned that earlier. People don't like you coining it process mining?
Because the mining, some people associate with the digging through dirt. And, they're looking for something that would not associate to that. I mean, literally, I've asked one friend of mine who's a product manager, and he says, it associates digging through the dirt. And I said, yes, you're digging in the dirt till you find one. So it's pretty new. It's possible that some marketing department is going to pop up with some better word, or maybe it already have. I didn't hear of that. For me, the proper name is a process mine.
No, I like the way you said it, though, because it's like you're looking for those hidden gems, right? Amongst all of this, it sounds I like the way it's coined, because you're like, you get to find where it is. You get to search, you have to work hard to find it. But once you do, it changes everything almost.
Exactly. I mean, I like it too. So it's some people, I like it.
I'm on your team. I like it. Well, this has been an awesome conversation. I very much enjoyed it. We are approaching the end of it, but I just wanted to make sure that you had are there any final thoughts that you want to share that you didn't get to during the course of this conversation?
As we talk almost all the time, stay open-minded. Keep in mind, our main focus always must be on helping our business improve their bottom line at the end of the story. And the second one is you have to keep improving yourself. You need to keep up with the new technology, new approaches, even sometimes new lingo that's coming. That's that.
Boyan, I just wanted to say thank you so much for your time. Like I said earlier, I really enjoyed our conversation, and take care.
Hey, likewise. Thank you guys for the opportunity to, express some of opinions.
Absolutely. Thank you so much again. VCOM Solutions is here to help make your IT projects and day-to-day operations as easy and efficient as possible. If you'd like to see how VCOM can help your organization save time and money, request a demo at vcomsolutions.com/demo. Do you work in IT? Be a guest on Braindrop. Go to vcomsolutions.com/Braindrop guest to sign up. Thanks again for dropping in. Don't forget to subscribe, and you can find us on social media at VCOM Solutions. Until next time.